Just a quick preface, and this is akin to what Mr. Richardson said at the beginning of his. We put together this 4-day overview with the intent of providing a kind of high-level view of various topics, priorities, city departments, and today how the government functions. Obviously, the city of Oakland and the issues and policies and the way we're governed is much more complex than can be packaged into a PowerPoint and shared over 4 days. So this is meant to be pretty high level, but we are doing this in more depth than we have in the past based on feedback from previous incoming city council members, and also thinking it'd be helpful for the entire council and the public to hear this all together. As the city attorney's office indicated, the administration is also willing and eager to provide any follow-up briefings or information as we go through these 4 days or after we go through these 4 days. And these presentations are not meant to be exhaustive or comprehensive, but to provide an overview and help you identify questions that you might have that we'll do our best to answer in real time during these meetings, but also for any follow-up information requests or briefing requests or other information you would seek subsequently. So just wanted to kind of restate that that's true, not just for what Mr. Richardson presented, but really for all of this. So high level, hopefully we'll trigger some questions that we'll try to answer what we can during these sessions, but know that there's probably a lot more depth on a lot of topics that a lot of folks will want to cover, which can be done via individual briefings, or to the extent you want to bring them to committees for more public conversation, we can do that as well. And I know it's been done already, but I do want to acknowledge Angela Robinson-Pignon in particular for her work pulling all of this together, Nicole Nedich for helping to take the content and make it look presentable and readable, and all the other city administrator and department staff. A lot of work went into these, and we hope they'll be helpful, not just for today, but for folks to use as reference materials. So on to this topic, we can go to the next slide. The city does not kind of stand alone as a government entity in terms of governing the affairs of the city of Oakland. First of all, and I will hand this to the council president, but this slide speaks to a question that Councilmember Gallo asked earlier. The city does have quite a number of boards and commissions that provide different levels of function in addition to that is provided by the city council as the primary legislative body of the city. These are all have been established by some act of the city council or of the voters in terms of changes to the charter. So it could be by a charter change, by ordinance, or by a resolution. Different boards and commissions have been established in different ways over different periods of time. And to get to Councilmember Gallo's question, there is a range of authorities that these bodies have. Some, the voters or the council has given significant authority, such as the police commission and the planning commission, which could have to do with hiring and firing of staff, of adopting policy, of approving of, in the case of the planning commission, they have authority over a large swath of land use approvals, some of which are appealable to the city council. So there are some bodies that have significant authority. There are others that are more advisory in nature, some in a very general sense where they provide advice to a department or the mayor and or the council, some that have specific requirements of things they are meant to advise the council on at specific times, such as when the budget is being submitted or before certain items come before the council, such as with the privacy commission. So there is not a single answer to that question, and that they really reside along a spectrum. We do have a lot of boards and commissions. I think the city clerk mentioned that the appointment process is managed in accord with the Maddie Act through the mayor's office. And most commissioners are appointed by the mayor and or city council, and most even the mayor appointees require approval of the city council. But again, since each one was established in its own way with its own legislation, the rules governing appointment and approval, governing whether they need to be televised on KTOP, things like that, is quite variable across the span of boards and commissions. And if you go to the boards and commissions page on the city's website, you'll see a complete listing of all the boards and commissions, the commissioners, the vacancies, etc. So I think we can move to the next slide. And I don't know, President Bass, if you want to pick up from here.
Yes, I can do this set of slides. So in addition to the City of Oakland's own boards and commissions, there are external boards and commissions outside of the city where the city has membership or some set of relationships to local, regional, or state bodies. And I actually prepared some slides that we'll go through in just a second so that the council members, your staff, and the public can see what those are. In addition to those external boards where the City of Oakland has membership, there's also other relevant regulatory agencies, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Oftentimes the mayor and the city administrator and their staff have direct contact with those relevant regulatory agencies. Administrator Riskin, do you want to perhaps touch just on those regulatory agencies and any relationships you would like to highlight?
I guess what I would note here is that these and these three are maybe the more significant ones. They have jurisdiction over certain things in our city. So BCDC, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, for example, has authority over development in the Bay and the 100 feet in from the shoreline. So the entire shoreline of the city of Oakland, much of which is controlled by the Port of Oakland, is subject to BCDC oversight and regulatory authority. Certain actions that the city or port might want to take in that 100-foot buffer or adjacently into the bay require BCDC permits. City businesses and the city government are subject to air quality and water quality regulation from BACMed and the Regional Quality Control Board. So just to note that while we have the city, the county, and the state, there are these other regional agencies that have legislative or regulatory power that has been granted by the state legislature. That it's important to be aware of, and sometimes these issues kind of come to the council, or we will bring things to the council noting that other regulatory requirements or permits or approvals will need to be executed in conjunction with whatever we're asking the city council to consider approving.
Thank you. Next slide. So there's 3 slides in your packet that lists the external boards and commissions where we have an Oakland seat. Some of them, the council approves the appointments, which the president puts forward. So I'll just go through this. And these are the appointees as of when this packet was created in December. So the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, there is a seat for the mayor. I understand Mayor Tao will be sitting on the MTC. Their jurisdiction is transportation, obviously. The Association of Bay Area Governments, on their executive board, Oakland has 3 seats and an alternate. And so you'll see currently the 3 appointees and the alternate. There is obviously 1 vacancy with a change in the council membership. ABAG is a regional body, and some of the larger issues coming to ABAG are around housing. This body recently approved our regional housing needs assessment goals around different levels of housing affordability. Alameda County Transportation Commission, ACTC, is another regional body. Those members you see listed here, and there's obviously a vacancy with Councilmember Sheng Tao becoming our mayor. And then there's also a newer transit body, which is the AC Transit Interagency Liaison Committee. This is a committee between AC Transit and the city of Oakland to ensure better coordination. You'll see the current members. There's one vacancy there. Next slide. Another commission is the East Bay Regional Communications System Authority. Perhaps you can briefly share, Administrator Riskin, the purview of this particular commission. I'm less familiar with this one.
Yeah. EBRICSA is a regional authority that generally covers Alameda and Contra Costa counties, that was established to develop, maintain, and improve a communication system that allows for interoperability, primarily between first responders throughout the region. So if Hayward firefighters come into Oakland under mutual aid to support an emergency in Oakland, there are ways for the firefighters in Hayward to communicate with the firefighters in Oakland. As a simple example, this is a need that arose, I think, from the Hills fire, as well as from 9/11, where you had multiple responders working together in a region who couldn't communicate, and that impacted their ability to operate. So that there are, it's a large board. I don't have it in front of me, but it's 20 plus person board. Oakland kind of negotiated its way to have 3 seats on the board as the largest city in the East Bay, and given other characteristics. So 1 member and alternate is appointed by the city council. That's currently Noel Gallo with Sheng Tao as an alternate. 1 seat is allocated through the Alameda County City Managers Association. And so that seat is for the Oakland City Administrator. And then 1 seat is allocated through the Alameda County Fire Chiefs Association, and that is held by the Oakland's fire chief.
Thank you. I'll go a little bit faster so we can cover everything that we need to cover. The next set are joint powers, authorities, and all of these that you see here, they all have their own websites, so you can certainly go to their websites and hear more. And last year, we did agendize a report to hear back from the appointees to these external boards and commissions. I do think it's a good idea to do that annually so that we're hearing what the work is that is happening with each of these appointments. So we also have 2 seats on the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority for council members, and then 2 community seats. You'll see that the council member appointments expire January 14. So I am bringing a resolution on the 17th on Tuesday to make those appointments for the next period. We also have the Youth Ventures Joint Powers Authority. There are a couple vacancies here, and this typically has been a regional body focused on young people, and they've been going through strategic planning. And so I think more is to come in terms of the direction and the work that we will be able to accomplish here. We have a lead poisoning prevention program, JPA, as well. And that work is critically important. I am bringing a resolution on Tuesday to reappoint the current appointees. A number of the homes that are impacted by lead poisoning are in Council District 5. And there's quite a bit of information that is available if you're interested in learning more about lead. Next slide, please. And then to round this out, there is the Oakland Airport Community Noise Management Forum, which, as you can imagine from the name, works with both the airport and community members around noise management. We have the Stop Waste Commission. We also have East Bay Community Choice Energy. We also have a seat on the East Bay Economic Development Alliance. And then for the California League of Cities and the National League of Cities, we can have one voting appointee and an alternate. And this doesn't preclude anyone else from going to any of these meetings. It just means that we designate who has the who's empowered to vote on behalf of the city of Oakland. So that gives you a sense of our current appointments to external boards and commissions. I will be looking at agendizing more appointments for our special meeting on the 31st. And so certainly if you are interested in any of these within the confines of the Brown Act, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll let you know if I can talk with you within those legal guidelines. We can go on to the next set of slides.
So picking up here, just we have, I've included just a few other kind of relevant governmental bodies that operate in the city of Oakland, just to call out a few that are kind of unique or relevant. So the Port of Oakland is, as far as the charter is concerned, is a department of the city, and it was established back nearly 100 years ago as a department. But the charter gives the port significant autonomy from the city. So the Port Board of Commissioners sits in the role of city council for a number of matters that pertain to the area under its jurisdiction. The Board of Commissioners is a 7-member board that is appointed by the council on nomination of the mayor. There are, I guess, really 3 main areas of activity: the seaport, the airport, and then the commercial activities such as Jack London Square that is within its jurisdiction, which is defined as the port area, which, as I said previously, covers most of the waterfront of the city. So for practical purposes, it operates somewhat as an independent agency. But do note that its governing body is appointed by the mayors and confirmed by council, and that it is technically a department of the city. So there are some deeper linkages with the port in our underlying law than there are with other agencies that act within the city. So that is the port. So moving on, next slide, please. So Alameda County, I think everybody here knows that Oakland is but one city within the county of Alameda, which has its own government, a 5-member board of supervisors, as is the case in many counties throughout California. And there is a split in terms of the kind of general jurisdictional authority between municipalities and counties in California. Oakland is somewhat of a full service municipality. So all of the kind of basic functions of local government we provide here by our local government. In other parts of the county, that cities may not provide services or may contract with the county or other cities to provide those services. In unincorporated areas of the county itself provides for those basic municipal services. But for us, the basic services of police, fire, parks, libraries, public works, those are city functions. The main county functions in California have to do with health, human services, and much of the criminal justice system. Those functions reside at the county level. Now, as with most things, there are not always bright lines between what is city responsibility and what is county responsibility. The city does have a human services department, which provides some level of human services to people in the city of Oakland beyond what or instead of what the county provides, although the county is kind of generally responsible for health and human services. The one area I'll just call out that is a kind of falls kind of in between city and county, at least in practice, is homelessness. That the county has, I think, essentially taken a position that because the city is eligible for certain state homelessness funds, that the city is primarily responsible for providing homeless services and managing homelessness in the city. That's not something that the city necessarily entirely agrees with, and the county does work with the city on some aspects of homelessness service provision, such as healthcare for the homeless. But it is generally speaking the county that receives state and federal funds as the designated entity for the entire county, including the city of Oakland, for health and human services functions, such as behavioral health, environmental health, substance abuse services, and the like. And again, much of the justice system, including the elected officials for the justice system, are part of the county government. And I just noted here, there are of the 5 county board districts, 3 of them represent different portions of Oakland, as I've roughly listed here. So on to the next slide, please. So, different levels of government have different authorities. So above the county is the state government, and then of course the federal government. And it's important for us to understand what those relationships are and to develop our own relationships with our state and federal officials, both executive and legislative branches. Largely it's funding that is coming through the state and federal level, but there's also a lot of policy making that can and does impact us here in Oakland. The council president referenced that she is scheduling the legislative agenda for the city council's review. That's something that happens each year, the beginning of the calendar year, whereby the mayor proposes and the city council ultimately adopts the legislative agenda for the year, which sets the main policy goals of the city with respect to state and federal funding and legislation. We do, that is a document that provides guidance and direction to our contracted public affairs firm that represents the city in Sacramento and Washington. It governs city staff and council member communications with state and federal officials, whether elected or appointed. I think it was mentioned in some of the previous sections, the city council can take action outside of the legislative agenda to support or oppose specific state or federal legislative proposals, which the city does often. Generally speaking, engagements with the executive branch of the state and federal governments are managed through the mayor's office. There's also relationships, between the mayor's office and council offices with our legislative branch representatives who are shown here in the state assembly and senate and in Congress. We can go on to the next. We'll call what's left.
Through the chair to Administrator Riskin, that was actually the last slide in this section. Yes.
Okay, so I return to the chair and happy to try to answer any questions.
Great. So thank you for that, Administrator Riskin. As you heard, this is really a high-level overview of relationships that we have with our boards and commissions, as well as with external boards and entities. Are there any questions or comments?